Peace, family. I'm back. And we back with another class. And this class is going to be from after school. Like I said that earlier. You know, I want to do a class for after school. And before I get into the class, I want to get into some Sun Two's Art of War, Taoism, and explain, you know, just a little bit about where my spirituality has brought me and what it means to me, like to learn a lot of this stuff. All right, where was I? This is the Shambhala packet, right? All right, Sun Two's dictum of the classic, to win without fighting is best, right? To win without fighting, as a study of the anatomy of organizations and conflicts. The art of war applies to competitions and conflicts in general, on every level, from the interpersonal to the international. It aims its invincibility, victories without battle, and assailable strengths through understanding the physics, politics, and psychology of conflicts. This translation of the art of war presents the classic from the point of view of background and the great spiritual traditions of Taoism. All right, that's our ancestors' spirituality, I guess, thrown in the book. Taoist about the art of war in such a way as recommended itself to the modern day is a manner in which power is continually tempered by a profound undercurrent of humanism. The art of war is thus the book not only of war but also of peace. Above all, it's a tool for understanding the very root of conflict and resolution. All right, this is my Shambhala book right here, and it comes from Shambhala, the Boston Shambhala thing. All right, so then that's 2 minutes. Before I fix my bike, which I'm gonna do, we're gonna get into after school. Should we do freedom of being a nobody or killing the mind? Because it's right there. We can't do the whole thing.
And narrated by Academy of Ideas. Check out their YouTube channel for more of their videos.
For real, I love both of those channels. Both School of Thought and Academy of Ideas. You want to learn.
The masses have never thirsted after truth. They turn aside from evidence that is not to their taste, preferring to deify error if error seduced them. Whoever can supply them with illusions is easily their master. Whoever attempts to destroy their illusions is always their victim.
Wow.
According to the psychologist Carl Jung,
no wonder
the greatest
motherfuckers get
threat
mad
to
at me.
civilization lies not with the forces of nature, nor with any physical disease, but with our inability to deal with the forces of our own psyche. We are our own worst enemies, or as the Latin proverb puts it, man is a wolf to man. In Civilization in Transition, Jung states that this proverb is a sad yet eternal truism, and our wolf-like tendencies come most prominently into play at those times of history when mental illness becomes the norm rather than the exception in a society, a situation which Jung termed a psychic epidemic. Indeed, it is becoming ever more obvious, he writes, that it is not famine, not earthquakes, not microbes, not cancer, but man himself, who is man's greatest danger to man, for the simple reason that there is no adequate protection against psychic epidemics, which are infinitely more devastating than the worst of natural catastrophes. In this video, we are going to explore the most dangerous of all psychic epidemics, the mass psychosis. A mass psychosis is an epidemic of madness, and it occurs when a large portion of a society loses touch with reality and descends into delusions. Such a phenomenon is not a thing of fiction. Two examples of mass
Predictive
psychoses are the American and European witch hunts of the 16th and 17th centuries, and the rise of totalitarianism in the 20th century. During the witch hunts, thousands of individuals, mostly women, were killed, not for any crimes they committed, but because they became the scapegoats of societies gone mad. In some Swiss villages, writes Francis Hill, there were scarcely any women left alive after the frenzy had finally burned itself out. When a mass psychosis occurs, the results are devastating. Jung studied this phenomenon and wrote that the individuals who make up the infected society become morally and spiritually inferior. They sink unconsciously to an inferior intellectual level. They become more unreasonable, irresponsible, emotional, erratic, and unreliable, and worst of all, crimes the individual alone could never stand are freely committed by the group smitten by madness. What makes matters worse is that those suffering from a mass psychosis are unaware of what is occurring. For just as an individual gone mad cannot step out of his mind to observe the errors in his ways, so too there is no Archimedean point from which those living through a mass psychosis can observe their collective madness.
Wow.
But what causes a mass psychosis? To answer this question, we must first explore what drives an individual mad. While there are many potential triggers of madness, such as an excessive use of drugs or alcohol, brain injuries, and other illnesses, these physical causes will not concern us here. Our concern is with psychological, or what are called psychogenic triggers, as these are the most common culprits of the mass psychosis. The most prevalent psychogenic cause of a psychosis is a flood of negative emotions, such as fear or anxiety, that drives an individual into a state of panic. When in a state of panic, an individual will naturally seek relief, as it is too mentally and physically draining to subsist in this hyper-emotional state. While escaping from the state of panic can be accomplished through adaptive means, such as facing up to and defeating the fear-generating threat, another way to escape is to undergo a psychotic break. A psychotic break is not a descent into a state of greater disorder, as many believe, but a reordering of one's experiential world, which blends fact and fiction, or delusions and reality, in a way that helps end the feelings of panic. Silvano Arietti, one of the 20th century's foremost authorities on schizophrenia, explains the psychogenic steps that lead to madness. Firstly, there is the phase of panic, when the patient starts to perceive things in a different way, is frightened on account of it, appears confused, and does not know how to explain the strange things that are happening. The next step is what Arietti calls a phase of psychotic insight, whereby an individual succeeds in putting things together by devising a pathological way of seeing reality which allows him to explain his abnormal experiences. The phenomenon is called insight because the patient finally sees meaning and relations in his experiences. But the insight is psychotic because it is based on delusions, not on adaptive and life-promoting ways of relating to whatever threats precipitated
not
the
common
panic.
sense.
The delusions, in other words, allow the panic-stricken individual to escape from the flood of negative emotions, but at the cost of losing touch with reality. And for this reason, Arietti says that a psychotic break can be viewed as an abnormal way of dealing with an extreme state of anxiety. If a panic-triggering flood of negative emotions in a weak and vulnerable individual can trigger a psychotic break, then a mass psychosis can result when a population of weak and vulnerable individuals is driven into a state of panic by threats real, imagined, or fabricated.
Wow. You know, I'm at the 9-minute mark. Damn, that shit went by like that too, man. You know, you can get this on After School and in the beginning, I can't even think. There's the Academy of Ideas. Those are my two channels, and I guess they both owned by the same people. So you know, stay balanced as always. Love and light. You know, defeat. You know, the mind, that fear that we're you know, that throws us off and makes us panic. But know what's real, like nature, and what's not real, you know, like the grids in the matrix. So one time for the one time, I love y'all. I hope y'all get this.